Everybody, let's try this again. I think the first time I did this, it didn't go through. But anyway, just to let people know, I'm Bill. I'm from GMAT and GRE, Math Made Simple. I'm the person that's going to get you into grad school, because when it comes to grad college admissions, advisors and recruiting officers, they be looking for people to go through and be able to do the math. So what we're going to do is I'm going to get you guys ready. I do the GMAT and GRE, as my name says, and we'll go from there. I also go through, and part of this live here is going to be about the GMAT questions and the GRE questions that I posted the other day, 3 days ago. So hoping to get some more people to answer them, and we'll go in through each of the questions, and I'll answer each one in depth, and I'll show you how you can do them. Okay, just give us a little bit of a minute here, and then we'll get into it. Some elevator music, or Doug. And then, okay. Okay, let's get started. Again, I'm Bill from GMAT GRE, Math Made Simple. Okay, so we're going to go right into the GRE, because that seems to be the one that I've seen people like that more. So I'll go into it, and I'll go answer the questions 1, 2, and 3. Some of them are a little longer, so just bear with me. Okay, to go through in here for our one question, we were asked to evaluate negative 3x squared, negative 3x to the cubed to the third, 3x squared, negative 3x in parentheses squared, and negative 3x in parentheses cubed. And it gave us the numbers for x. So x will be either 2 or negative 2. Now, if you want to do this, you can make it into a little table where you can say, where if x is this, then you can put them in where x is. So on the top, it'll be if x equals 2, you put a line underneath, and you put in each equation that we just had, the negative 3x squared, negative 3x cubed, 3x squared, the negative 3x, that one in parentheses, squared and cubed. Then we can go through and we can do them to the right and make it easier for that one particular variable. Okay, so we'll go through and do the x equals 2 first, and then we'll go from there. So when you would put that in there, you have negative 3 times x squared. Now, negative 3 is outside the parentheses. There's no parentheses at all, so negative 3 stays by itself. Then you have the 2 squared. That equals 4. So negative 3 times 4 equals negative 12. Okay? Now when it comes to the negative 3x to the cubed, it's pretty much the same thing as the last time, because there's no parentheses. It would be negative 3 times whatever 2 to the third is, or 2 cubed, and that equals 8. 2 times 2 times 2. 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8. So you have negative 3 times 8, which gives you negative 24. Now you have just 3x squared, which is simple enough. It's 3 times 2 squared, which we know is 4, which 3 times 4 equals 12. So we got that one. For the next one, it's a little bit tricky, because it depends on the variable, the exponent that's there. Anytime that you have anything within parentheses and the exponent is a positive even number, it'll always be a positive number. But if it's a negative number inside the parentheses and it's an odd exponent, then it'll be negative. So we'll go from here and we'll go do it right now. So, but that's also only true, well, that actually is true whether the variable is either positive or negative in there. Like so, x equals 2. So let's do this right now. We have negative 3x, that's going to be in parentheses, squared. So now, like we said before, negative 3 times 2 equals negative 6, and if you have that whole thing squared. Once you do that, that'll give us a positive 36. Now we do negative 3x, and have that cubed, it'll be negative 3 times 2, which gives us negative 6, and we do that 3 times, because we're doing a cubed. So negative 6 times negative 6 is positive 36, but then you multiply by negative 36 again, negative 6 again, and you get negative 216. So you can see right there that if whatever's in the parentheses, if it's a positive odd number, then it'll be a negative. Now let's try again when the variable has a value that is negative. Hence, the next x is equal to negative 2. So we have negative 3x squared. So we have negative 3, like we had before, by itself, no parentheses. Then you have negative 2 squared. Now, like we said before, any variable that is 2, that's not in parentheses, or in parentheses, that is to the second power, or any even positive exponent, it'll be positive for that number. So we have negative 3 times positive 4, which gives us negative 12. Now, we have negative 3, x to the third. So we'll do this again. We have negative 3, then we have negative 2 to the third. We have negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2, which gives us negative 8. Now we do negative 3 times negative 8 and gives us a positive 24. Now we have the 3x squared just by itself, no negatives. Now we know that negative 2 squared is 4, as we did that from before. And then we have the positive 3 times a positive 4, which gives us a positive 12. Now we have to deal with exponents. Now when it comes to that, we have negative 3 times negative 2, which gives us a positive 6. And then that needs to be squared. So that will equal 36. Now we have the negative 2x to the third, with negative 3x being in parentheses. So we do negative 2 times negative 3, which gives us 6, a positive 6. And we do that to the third, or cubed, and we get 216. So when it comes to question number 1, that's it in a nutshell. Ugh, can't get it right. Anyway, let's move on to the next one here. What I like to do for the evaluation ones is, I remember the order of operations. PEMDAS, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. I like to write them down, and I like to keep, once I get them on a piece of paper, I like to write them and keep them separated, and I like to go down one line, depending on the whole order of operations. So, and of course, you are going to have times where the one side of the equation is going to be longer than the other because it might be more complicated. But we'll go in through this one right now. So it says evaluate, in parentheses, 4 plus 12 divided by 3 minus 18, close the parentheses, minus negative 11 minus negative 4. Both in parentheses there. They're on their own separate equations. Not equations, statements. So here we're going to go. We're going to start with PEMDAS, order of operations. When we do that, we see that there are 2 different sets of parentheses. We have the 4 plus 12 divided by 3 minus 18, and then we have the negative 11 minus negative 4. Let's start with the one on the left, and then work our way to the right. So we have 4 plus 12 divided by 3 minus 18. Now when you do the order of operations, you'll see that there's no other parentheses inside the parentheses. You have no exponents, so that's great. Then you have multiplication and division. Well, you don't have any multiplication, but you do have division. So we have 4 plus, and whatever 12 divided by 3 is, which we know is 4, minus 18. You take that, and you put those numbers down at the bottom in its own parentheses, and then you start working on that. And keep it to the left so you can go through and make sure you keep it separate. And then you do the actual equation from there, because from there it's 4 plus 4 minus 18, which we find out is negative 10. And you push that there all the way down to the bottom, and then you go all the way back up to the top line where you were before, where you have the negative 11 minus negative 4. Now in this you do have a parentheses. The parentheses is just to show that it's a negative number. Now when you do negative 11 minus a negative, that usually means actually does mean, it means you add instead of subtracting, because you can't subtract a negative. Well, you can, but it'll just be addition. So we'll go from there. So we have negative 10 that we have down at the bottom minus whatever's going to be in that parentheses. So we have negative 10 minus a negative 4, which would be a positive 4, so we're adding 4. So you have negative 11 plus 4, which when you go down to the next line, the next few lines, it'll be negative 7. So now at the bottom you have negative 10 minus negative 7 in parentheses, which, as we just found out, when you subtract a negative, it adds. So we have negative 10 plus 7, and then when you get that, you have negative 3. So the answer to number 2 is negative 3. Now for the next one, it's a little trickier because it deals with parentheses, exponents. It does everything that you deal with when it comes to the order of operations and the way that they set it all up. Okay, so it says which of the parentheses in the following questions are unnecessary and could thus be removed without any change to the value in expression. Okay, so now when we look at it, you have negative 5 squared. The 5 squared is only one that's in the actual parentheses, minus 12 minus 7. Now when we do this, we'll see that we have negative 1. That's really what the negative really means, negative 1 times 5 squared minus whatever 12 minus 7 is, which we know is 5. So when we think about this, the parentheses that are around the 5 squared is unnecessary because no matter what is in there, whether it's negative 5 squared or 5 squared, it does not matter what's in there because anything squared is going to be positive. So that's not really going to help. It says when the other parentheses are necessary because on the right hand you need to separate one number from the other. So when it comes down to it, you need to have the second one. But the first one is unnecessary because no matter what number is squared, it's still not going to change the number in there. Okay? That's for A. For B, it says the question gives us x plus y minus w plus z minus e times b. Now, when it comes to the equation here, the first and last pair that we found are very unnecessary. The reason for that is because when you're doing the addition before the subtraction, it's because they're just trying to do it left to right. But reality is multiplication is the first order of operations to be done. So whether you do the multiplication first in their parentheses or you do the addition in the beginning, let me look back at it again. The x plus y and the a times b, when you do it, you're supposed to do the a times b, and then you get that number, and then you do the x plus y, subtract that, and subtract that. Either way, it's those two, since it's not really anything that deals with actual, not say no actual numbers, but if you switch a times b and you do x plus y, you can do negative 1 times a times b, whatever a times b is, and you subtract w plus z and you add x plus y. So the first two they are very switchable, so you can just flip-flop them and then go around anyway. There's no need for the parentheses there. Okay, so for that's what we're going to do for the GRE. Give me a few minutes here and I'll get myself set up so I can go through and we can do the GMAT questions, which are not that difficult, but we will see in a little bit. So for GMAT and GRE, Math Made Simple, this is Bill. I'll talk to you in a little bit.